Και από μένα να ξεκινήσουμε γιατί έχουμε καθυστερήσει αρκετά, είμαστε πίσω στο πρόγραμμα. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much that you waited so long and you stayed for the last session, the 10th session of this quite interesting conference. And we have three of our guests here live, and the other three will be online. And the schedule says that all the panelists will have a short presentation of what they represent, the organism that they represent, the organization, and what they want to state about the transport green transition, let's say, and then we'll have a discussion as much time as we have in our availability. So I would ask first Mr. Hadjifotis, who is the manager of European Affairs of the Motor Oil Group, to take to start his speech. I would ask all of you to be a little bit short, 6-7 minutes, not more, so we can have some question time and discussion, and because we will shorten the session to 1 hour. Thank you very much, Mr. Hadjifotis.
Good afternoon. I'm very glad being here today in Thessaloniki. And I would like to warmly thank the Institute of Energy for Southeast Europe for the invitation to be part of this panel among distinguished speakers and colleagues. I have been a student in Thessaloniki. It's Friday evening, so I think that we will all have better things to do rather than spending too much time of yours tonight by having long speeches. So I represent Motor Oil Group, an energy conglomerate which is currently present at 7 different countries in the broader area of Southeastern Europe. And therefore the discussions of this event are very relevant for us. As an active player in the energy sector, in energy scene of the country and the wider Eastern Mediterranean for over 50 years, with 3,000 employees, with presence in 8 different countries, with more than 60% of our production being exported, Motor Oil remains a leading force, investing decisively into the future of energy. Our group is characterized by its continuity, its consistency, its stability, quality and credibility. We are a Greek company, a Greek group, and we continue to deeply believe to the potential of our country, to the potential of our geopolitical advantages and to our people. And in order to be a leader, in order to remain a leader, you have to invest in development, to progress, to advance and change. While the priorities of the energy sector and of our world change, we have timely realized in Motor Oil that we also need to reshape our business plan. The next day of our group has been a long time ago, before the long series of new investments that you may have heard. Even today we announced the acquisition of Unagi SA, which owns 51% of 1 gigawatt portfolio of solar panels in North Greece. And in the aftermath of 10 years of economic recession in Greece, the pandemic, and more recently, the geopolitical, energy and economic crisis, and in view of the world, European and national sustainability targets, and the climate crisis, the group's long-term dynamic goals show a strong commitment to secure energy supply, accelerate energy transition, and drive sustainable shareholders' returns. Committed to this goal of a gradual transition to the new energy environment, Motor Oil is setting dynamic targets. Looking into 2030, the company is moving forward with the largest energy transition plan in the Southeastern Europe of approximately 4 billion euros, and this ambitious plan reflects commitment to acting responsibly. We have set a target of 30% decrease of our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 2030 and net zero by 2050, enhancement of energy efficiency and digitalization, acceleration of the renewable energy penetration, investment in new sustainable technologies, and provision of energy and mobility solutions to consumers. We have four strategic plans. The first is four strategic pillars. The first is to enhance the energy efficiency of our refinery and to digitalize it. To invest more in renewables. Motor oil currently produces 800 megawatts of green energy, and our plan is to go up to 2 gigawatts by the end of 2030. We have plans to build an FSRU in Corinth. We also invest a lot in clean hydrogen, either green or blue, and in biofuels. And we also invest a lot in circular economy, waste to energy. And then to come to the issue that is focusing our panel about transportation, we are creating the largest electromobility network in Greece and in Balkans, targeting to 4,000 EV chargers network by 2025-26. The group has provided mobility solutions to customers for decades with over 1,400 gas stations all over Greece, Avin Oil and Coral Gas with the commercial brand of Shell. And our network is currently being equipped with ultra-fast chargers, so I guess next year or the year after you will be able to spend only 15 minutes charging your car when you are coming from Athens to Thessaloniki, and makes this trip come true. At the same time, Avin Oil is building the first commercial hydrogen refueling station in Agii Theodori, and for these two big projects, electromobility and hydrogen, we have recently signed a loan with EIB, the European Investment Bank, of 40 million euros to support these investments. And just to mention that our future hydrogen refueling stations will provide green and blue hydrogen. We are about to begin a big construction of a green electrolyzer in our refinery in Agii Theodori. And I leave it here so we can have some further discussion at the Q&As. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hadispotis. I would ask now for a little speech Dr. Nikolaos Koukouzas, who is the Director of Research in CERT, a doctoral geologist, and with a long scientific history. Dr. Koukouzas.
Yes, hello everybody. Good afternoon. I think that the time is very limited now, and of course it's Friday evening, so I don't want to spend your time. I'm going to discuss about CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage in Greece. So we have, it's a known technology nowadays, so we have about, the chain is CO2 capture, CO2 separation from fuel gas, transportation, utilization, storage. We have here a video to show you, but unfortunately the time is very limited, so I go very fast and I'll give you the speed so you can see it later on. So we have different technologies, post-combustion, pre-combustion, oxy-fuel, we have absorption, captures, membrane separation, chemical looping. And as it concerns transportation, we have pipelines, trucks and rails, and ships with different advantages and disadvantages. So as it concerns CO2 utilization, we have this, we convert CO2 into different new products, at least 150 new products. So I can just only name some of them, inorganic carbonates, polyurethane, polycarbonates. When we go now to storage, so we have to, when we go to store CO2, we have to see different priorities in the rocks: permeability, thickness, depth, And we go to different formations, deep saline formations, abandoned coal mines, depleted hydrocarbon fields, coal seams, basaltic, ultramafic rocks, and different projects in Europe. So many projects. I just put in a slide some of them. We have in the UK, Netherlands, Spain, Norway, so you can see some of them. But let's go now to Greece, which is the important thing for us, for our country. So we have the CCUS legislation in Greece to be, let's say, formulated, but we have different policy measures related to CCUS in the different parts of the national on the national plan for energy and climate. So what we have, we know that it's an existing technology, and the infrastructure for CCUS implementation in Greece includes all these capture and transportation and geological storage sites. We know that we have emissions from energy, industrial sector. So almost everybody knows that Greece is related very much on lignite. Now with the decarbonization, we only have Ptolemaida 5, so it's the new power plant to be constructed, to be in operation this year. And we have also, as a plan of this decarbonization plan, to terminate everything until 2028. So we have, as storage potential sites, we have Prinos Basin. We have also the possibility to go to Middle East, North Africa, to have enhanced oil recovery, but also the possibility to ship CO2 to Northern Europe. So what they have, what we propose with ENS, some hubs in Greece for CCUS. So with the existing railway network, we have West Macedonia and Peloponnese. But we have also another possibility using the natural gas pipeline system of Greece. That means the gas interconnector Greece-Bulgaria, Turkey-Greece gas pipeline, Trans-Adriatic pipeline, Trans-Balkan pipeline, the East Med pipeline. So we can put as, let's say, priority the ports to be CCUS hub. So we have this happen also in Europe. So in Rotterdam, for instance, is an example. So we have space for industrial and commercial activities in ports in Greece. So we propose 6 hubs points, in other words, Thessaloniki, which is nearby the CO2 emission setters. So that means the West Macedonia, but also cement and oil industries of Thessaloniki. We have Prinos, so that means that includes also the promising storage sites there, enhanced oil recovery. We have Alexandroupolis, which can be connected to regional industries for CO2 capture and utilization. So that means also that this is also of geopolitical significance. We have Ptolemais 5, as we mentioned before, Corinth and Aspropyrg as it is very much related to CO2 sources from the oil refining industries. So we have different, as I told you, different geological storage sites in Greece are part of this. Also, we are discussing about CO2 mineralization in Volos basalts or sandstones in Mesohellenic trough or Vourinos in ultramafic rocks. And different other geological reservoirs in, again, sandstones in the Mesohellenic trough and saline aquifers, Navpactia, Ptolemais, Kozani, West Thessaloniki, but these are potential CO2 storage sites. And here we have some capacities we have from previous works for all these places. And I would like just to give you a, let's say, discuss about hydrogen value chain. Here we have also the possibility to have, in Greece we have hydrogen production, hydrogen transmission, hydrogen storage, and hydrogen distribution and utilization. So everybody knows about the different colors of hydrogen. Again, the same pipeline system as CO2. Very much similar to CO2 storage here for hydrogen as well. So we have the depleted hydrocarbon fields, the salt formations, saline aquifers, abandoned rock mines, and hydrogen utilization. Everybody knows about the transport and the fuel vehicle generate electricity and heat. And here also we propose different scenarios to have first hydrogen underground storage with CO2 as cation gas. Second scenario, the CO2 hydrogenation and methanation, so that means CO2 utilization and hydrogen utilization. And the third one is the blue hydrogen generation, that means CO2 capture and storage and hydrogen generation. I'm not going in details in these scenarios. So we propose a roadmap for CCUS in Greece, and taking all these technologies, infrastructures, gaps, knowledges and expertise gaps, legislation and policies different, and financial government investments, Greek authorities engagement. So that's more or less what I would like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koukoulas. Now I call Dr. Katerina Sardi, who is the Greece country manager of Energean, to have the floor. Please, Dr. Sardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also wish to thank the organizers for this invitation. I also wish to thank Dr. Koukoulas because he has painted very well the background from where I will start and present our project. Just as a parenthesis, this session is entitled Transportation, and I am not going to present to you a transportation solution. What I'm going to present to you is a CO2 storage service, a CO2 storage project here in northern Greece, close to Kavala by the name of Prinos. This is where oil is being produced for the last 40 years. And why is this relevant to transportation? Some of you may be thinking, particularly now at 11 minutes past 6. Well, because in hydrogen, when we're discussing about hydrogen, we have green hydrogen, but everybody acknowledges that we're also going to have blue hydrogen, and we're also going to have synthetic fuels. So, this as an introduction, I am, as the chairman introduced me, I'm the managing director of Energean Oil and Gas. Energean is the only oil producer in Greece, but we have a presentation in 7 countries, mainly in Southeast Mediterranean, mainly in Israel, Egypt, Italy. We have a profile of about 75% of gas production. The rest is oil, but also a commitment to net zero by 2050. These are our commitments, but I will not go there at 11 minutes past 6. But I will try to respond as to why CO2, why Prinos. Yes, because it will be needed if we're going to proceed as a country, as EU, with the hydrogen strategy as fast as we would like to proceed. So blue hydrogen is recognized as being necessary because we hear continuously voices that no CCUS, no Green Deal. We hear now with the net zero strategy published by the Commission in March that, okay, we can go, we can have renewables. We even heard it today. We have substantial penetration in production of renewable energy, meaning electricity, but what are we going to do with the hard-to-abate industry? We have now the CBAM regulation that says no more free allowances for industry. From 2027, they start to reduce. They're going to go down to 0 in 2033. So what is going to happen with competition between EU and other parties? So we are looking at the solution. You can see, I don't know how much you can see, Prinos is located, as I said, in the northeast part of Greece. It's strategically located to serve large emitters in the region. Large emitters being emitters in Greece, but also emitters, for example, in southern of Italy, Western Balkans. It has been, and we are designing this to become immediately available. This is Prinos as a picture. What this, I said it's a brownfield. It's where oil has been produced for 40 years. Why is this interesting and important? It's interesting and important because this is a brownfield. It's not a greenfield. This could mean that there are synergies between existing infrastructure and new infrastructure. This means that there is a local community that has been accustomed with an industrial facility. We have recently hired the third generation. So there has been the father, the grandfather, the father, now the son. This is an important facility for local community. Kavala has the lowest GDP per capita in the region. And we are designing this CO2 storage facility to become operational in 2 stages. Because as we know, things in Greece, if they do not happen fast, they have a tendency of not happening at all. So we are planning for this facility to become, to have an operation license Q4 2025. The facility is enjoying an earmarked amount from the Recovery and Resilience Facility. This could to speed up its realization. So Q4 2025, the facility begins to operate. CO2 will be injected from our own acid gas. Acid gas is a byproduct of oil production. And also it will serve as a storage for small quantities of CO2 of hard-to-abate industry in the region that are currently participating in Horizon projects. So they are actually capturing small quantities of CO2, but they are capturing small quantities of CO2. And this CO2 shall be transported by truck to our facility. We shall be utilizing every possible synergy, existing wells to be repurposed for CO2 injection, and also for water producing. Why shall we be needing this phase? We shall be using this phase to optimize the design of the commercial operation phase, due to become operational Q4 2027. I'm calling it a commercial phase because this shall be providing the storage service to hard-to-abate industry, but also blue hydrogen producers. This would also include refineries, just to tie up with my predecessor. In phase 2, so CO2 shall be delivered in liquid form by ship to a jetty that shall be purposely constructed. It shall be, additional wells shall be drilled, and CO2 shall be stored beneath the existing oil field in the so-called Prinos aquifer. Just for you to understand, with yellow you see the oil-producing fields, Prinos and Epsilon. With light blue, it's the aquifer below the oil fields where CO2 shall be stored. The idea is, after Prinos is developed, to potentially expand to other storage sites that our company operates currently. There is also an idea that potentially there is additional storage in stacked aquifers on top of Prinos. This is the gray area that you see. There have been studies, including one by Dr. Koukousas, that it says that there is potential additional storage capacity, and this is also subject to further search. I am not going to go in this detail. I don't have the time. What I would like to just for you to take some days with you, we have this project has been included in the Greece's Recovery and Resilience Facility plan. We have also applied for the Innovation Fund. We have received some assistance from the European Investment Bank. We have applied for the project to become a European project of common interest and serve as part of a Mediterranean CCS chain. There are no CCS projects in the Mediterranean currently. There are several. There are tenths in the North Sea. There is nothing in the Mediterranean, but still hard-to-abate industry also exists in the Mediterranean. Hydrogen requirements, blue hydrogen requirements, will be also there in the Mediterranean, not just in the north. I'm not saying that this is an easy task. There are several challenges, different CO2 fluid characteristics, different need to understand very well the geology. Prinos has been operating for 40 years. There is substantial experience. Still, it's very different to inject CO2 as opposed to taking oil out. There are issues with the legal framework. There could be commercial challenges because the realization of the commercial storage shall need to be linked to long-term commitments from emitters. But it's there. And as I said, the way we're looking at it, it's for it to be part of a Mediterranean CCS chain. So it's not just a standalone project, but part of a full chain for the Mediterranean. We heard in this earlier in this afternoon, actually by Professor Biskas, he said, let the market work. No subsidies, no support schemes. They're not needed. I don't know, is this the case? The experience has shown, and the EU legal framework recognizes, including the electricity directive on electricity storage, let alone CO2 storage, it recognizes that it's not always possible for the market to work alone. And what you see in there is a table from the various support schemes that have been around for renewable energy sources over the last 25 years. Yes, have been around that long. And these included investment support schemes, included tax exemptions, it included feed-in tariffs, feed-in premiums, quota obligations, long-term uptake contracts with state guarantees. It included fast-track licensing procedures. It included certificates, also including the European trading system in our case. I am not saying that these are all relevant for CO2 storage. And certainly I do not claim that when these were used for renewable energy sources, they were used in an optimum way. But experience is there and can be utilized for the development of CCS chains. So there is market, but there's still to be done. Some things to be taken away. Free allowances are gradually to be reduced. There is a notable benefit for establishing CCS chains, and Greece has a unique opportunity for being in the front of this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No transportation, but I think it's significant and it's very much connected to the next step. Thank you very much. Do you have Mrs. Hugo online? So I will ask then Mrs. Marta Hugo, who is a policy executive from Fuels Europe, to deliver her speech. Please, Mrs. Hugo.
Hi, thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the kind invitation to join you. I'm really looking forward to a good discussion because here we are also touching upon some of the points on CCUS actually and the relevance for them for the transport sector. But I would like to put forward the vision of actually the refining industry and what we call the Vision 2050. So just a very quick overview on who we are, very briefly. So we are in Fuels Europe, we represent the fuel manufacturer sector. So we are the European Association representing around 90% of the European refining capacity. And you can see here the different logos of our member companies. And the beauty of this is that we all work together in trying to picture the refinery of the future. When we want to be part of the solution, we want to be part of the transition and the challenges put forward by the Green Deal. And we started working on what we call the refinery of the future, Vision 2050. In this future, the way we see ourselves is still delivering the demand for transport across all transport modes, but doing it in a different way. So right now, crude oil is the main feedstocks, and we see ourselves transitioning out of crude oil progressively and replacing crude oil by alternative alternative feedstocks. Feedstocks such as biofeedstocks leading to biofuels, sustainable biofuels, as well as CO2 and waste. All of that being processed in this refinery of the future, which is actually an energy hub that takes the best of the renewable electricity, uses part of the CO2 either for storage or for utilization later on to produce synthetic fuels, and all of that to deliver low carbon fuels with a lower carbon intensity. So this is how we picture ourselves in the future. And actually we put numbers behind that transition in what we call the clean fuels for all. Here you will find the link in our website, and we are actually picturing how this transition is happening from today down to 2050. And we believe that this transition is possible. We need to develop and deploy the value chains, mobilize the resources, as well as transforming the refining assets. And quite a lot of investment, around 650 billion, will be required for this transformation. But of course, the transformation needs some time, and there are kind of transition from where we are today to where we want to be here, and there will be just not single solution. There will be a multiple type of feedstocks, multiple type of conversion technologies that need to be mass deployed across Europe to make sure that significant volumes of low carbon fuels are delivered by the end of this 2050 period. I'm just mentioning here some of the cellulosic materials, hydrotreated vegetable oils, as well as these novel technologies, these e-fuels, these RFMBOs, where CCUS and where hydrogen will play a major role in the production of these synthetic fuels. However, these technologies need to be scaled up, need to be proved at commercial scale, and that's why we see this progression in terms of the ramp up of the volumes. But at the end of the day, and this is probably the last slide before we get into the discussion, is that we see this the future of the low carbon fuels ramping up from where they are today up to around 150 million tons of oil equivalent potential in 2050 if the regulatory framework is supportive of this transformation of the industry. And the beauty is that at the same time, we see the demand for the total liquid fuels in transport being reduced throughout energy efficiency and throughout the penetration of alternative fuels. It's not or alternative sources of energy. It's not one, it's not electricity or low carbon fuels. We believe that is the combination of both of them. So that at the end of the period, we believe that almost every liter of liquid fuel that are being used in the transport sector could become low carbon. So with this, I'm ready to jump into the discussion and join the journey towards 2050 and when trying to achieve or when aiming at achieving this low carbon transport for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Hugo. And if Mr. Lagakos is with us, I would like to ask him. Mr. Alexandros Lagakos is the Chief Operating Officer of Blue Grid in Greece. Blue Grid is a leading downstream LNG and clean fuel supplier in Southeastern Europe. Mr. Lagakos, please proceed.
Hello. Good evening to everybody. First of all, I have to say that I'm very glad that I heard a lot of clapping, quite a deep, sound, which means that there's still audience there, which I cannot see. So I'm very glad that this is indeed the case. And I'm also very glad that I've been given the very honorable invitation from Mr. Stambolis and from IENET to participate in this institution, which I'm very glad that keeps on taking place in my home city of Thessaloniki. Nevertheless, I'm not able to be with you physically, but I'm only with you online. So in the interest of time, let me jump first to the conclusion, so my contribution to the discussion about road transportation, and then quickly conclude by explaining to you what Blue Grid does, which for some of you might not be a very recognizable name. I don't have a presentation, first of all, so what you see right now is the previous speaker screen, not mine. So let me start by quoting something that a lot of motivational speakers are using as a term. Definitely, I'm not included in the list. So they say that we live in a VUCA world. Now, I don't know if this acronym is familiar to you. A VUCA world basically means a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And it sounds like this acronym has been invented for energy transition in the transport sector. I'm saying this because the transport sector at the moment is facing an explosive mix, if I'm allowed to say so, of national and European targets, of mature and emerging technologies, of quite shaky market fundamentals and contradicting many times, self-contradicting, disruptive technologies, dynamic regulation, etc. So within this environment, stakeholders, consumers, and suppliers are called to find a solution, map a way forward, a viable pathway forward, admitting that everybody cares for the planet, but also admitting that most of us are not really willing to do something about it on our expense. That's why you see, the notorious NIMBY, not in my backyard phenomenon in the energy sector. So yes, I keep on meeting a lot of people, and also include myself in people that are very much in favor of greener technologies, of decarbonization solutions. Nevertheless, I struggle finding people that are willing really to subsidize this green transition, unless they see a clear benefit. And I've been making this introduction in order to come to the brief conclusion that in Blue Grid, we think that LNG as a downstream transport fuel helps clear that fog that I just described. It helps making things a bit clearer. And let me briefly explain why I'm making this statement. First of all, LNG is a fuel which is available today. Second, it is a fuel that both on road transportation as well as in sea transportation, it can deliver tangible improvement in terms of the carbon, CO2 profile and environmental profile and footprint of transportation. Just to give some numbers, regarding road transportation for heavy duty vehicles, LNG can give a 30% reduction on a well-to-wheel basis versus diesel, a 22% on a well-to-wake basis for shipping, at the same time eliminating SOx, NOx, particulate matter, etc. Third advantage is that it is a fuel which is competitive, and I'm very glad I'm making emphatically this point today when I see TTF trading at 24 euros per megawatt hour. Let me just remind you that 1 year ago, for June 2023 deliveries, TTF was trading at 71 euros per megawatt hour. Last August, it was trading at 300 euros per megawatt hour. So I'm very glad that I'm making this brief introduction on a day where TTF is trading at 24 euros per megawatt hour, which is a clear signal that LNG is the most competitive and available fuel today for transportation. Fourth advantage is that it has defined logistics. It has logistics that in a proven way work, and they work efficiently and competitively. And I'm stressing this out because the logistics issue is the least touched upon issue in all the other alternative fuels that are currently present in the public discussion, such as hydrogen or ammonia. And finally, LNG is a fuel in transition itself. So in other words, it's a fuel that today, yes, it's mainly available in its fossil format, but gradually it's been also available in renewable formats, be it bio-LNG, which has already been started, is already in production, and in the future as e-LNG, which will be the meeting point of methane, of LNG and hydrogen. So because of our strong conviction that LNG defines a clear pathway from now all the way to 2050 and even beyond for road and sea transportation that wants to gradually reduce its carbon and environmental footprint, That's why, as Blue Grid, we are investing our resources and our time and our enthusiasm in developing the downstream LNG market in Southeastern Europe. And how are we doing this? We're doing this by serving three main types of end users: industrial consumers that do not have access to a local gas pipeline grid, where we provide a virtual pipeline solution, where we operate the full supply chain, delivering the molecule to the burners of its user. Second category of customers is road transport, where we are starting the first network of LNG filling stations in Southeastern Europe in order to mainly help heavy-duty vehicles decarbonize through LNG and through bio-LNG. And the third one is LNG bunkering, which is basically supplying LNG as a marine fuel to seagoing vessels running on LNG. And as a fourth pillar, we are developing the first biomethane and bio-LNG producing units in Greece and in Southeastern Europe in order to start offering gradually a blend of fossil and renewable LNG to our customers. Last but not least, we're doing this having also on our side our shareholder since last year, which is MOLGAS Energy Holding, which is the largest downstream LNG supply group in Europe today, with more than 25 years of experience in downstream LNG supply. So having joined forces together with MOLGAS, Blue Grid, our team, which is headquartered in Athens and is active in all the Balkan area and Eastern Mediterranean area, is here to provide solutions to make LNG available to end users that want to take advantage of the important properties that I mentioned earlier, and hence achieve a viable pathway towards decarbonization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lagakos. We have also some extra clapping, recorded. And so last but not least, I would ask if he's online, Mr. Philip Van Hiel, who is the Secretary General of AVER in Brussels, and dealing with e-mobility. He's an expert in e-mobility, and AVER is doing a great work in this area. Please, Mr. Van Hiel.
Yes, thank you very much. And I will try to share my presentation. Coming now, if it will work. Here we are. You can see it, right?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the kind invite. So I will quickly go through it. We are a member association, in the first place representing national associations from all over Europe, also from out of Greece. So happy to have them also on board here, but also with direct industry members and EV user organizations. So our vision to decarbonize transport is indeed already starting from 2035, including HTV, to arrive fully decarbonized transport by 2050, and hoping that we can also bring this industry permanently in Europe. Our activities are covering all the aspects of e-mobility, so we do as well the vehicles as the infrastructure. There is a lot of subtopics and industry involved in this, but our main focus is always the user perspective. If it's the user experience on the charging point, or is it in a vehicle, truck, or passenger car, user should be centric into the transition, that he experience a smooth transition. Now, I followed the other presentations. We, as an organization, are supporting our members in analyzing what's the impact of the European policies in the transition to e-mobility. And we all know that the new European Commission started with the European Green Deal, followed by the Fit for 55 and decarbonizing with 55% by 2030, but also through to the Russian aggression, Repower Europe to cut the independency of, or the dependency at least, from the Russian gas. Now, where are we standing on CO2 standards, well, we know that we have a 2035 phase out, fully phase out, so the sales of internal combustion engines will be banned from that on for all member states. Well, some people are wondering, where are we today? It's going in a good thread, in a good way. We surpassed the 3 million of purely battery electric vehicles during last year, and this is only growing. If you look about the member states as such, then you can see that there is a big differentiation. I included also the plug-in hybrids here, but due to some changes on also the offer, but also the local changes on fiscal advantages, we will see them also more or less disappearing. Hydrogen is also included here. You see that this line is hardly popping up. We don't see any good ways that hydrogen will be part of decarbonizing transport, certainly not for passenger cars. At the same time, which is not achieved yet, is the CO2 standards for heavy-duty vehicles. These discussions are going on. The presentation has been done in February from the Commission. So where we will land, we don't know. There is, of course, some trajectories or loopholes that we miss, but we will see where we land. Nevertheless, it's always good to see where the trucks are here. They're also taking up fast now. They're also available now, so you can buy them indeed. And they seem already very successful in Germany, a bigger country, but also in the Netherlands. Also on the infrastructure side for trucks, there is a lot of initiatives upcoming to address the specific needs for this fueling of trucks. And I think we will see the deployment very fast, because this is linked with the alternative fuels infrastructure regulation. This also has been said. This will still be closed during the Swedish presidency, but we know that we will have every 60 kilometers for passenger cars on the highways guaranteed charging station on very high level technology points, but also for trucks. Every 100 kilometers on the 10T corridor networks will be charging points deployed to get it done. The charging points over all the European Union, AC and DC. There is no differentiation between if it's for trucks or passenger cars in this graph, but you also see that we are reaching now the 500,000 in this last trimester. And also going very fast. Also here, we see that the Netherlands is the front runner. A lot of discussion points here. I think the AFIR addressed it really good, how to approach public charging points. It's a case by case, and not every country has the same need. It depends how the living standards are. Do you have private access, yes or not? Talking about private access, this will also be guaranteed in the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. Some people will maybe react from what has a Buildings Directive to do with charging points. Well, here it guarantees that people living in a shared building or in with underground parkings, etc., that pre-cabling potentially both mandatory, but also a right to plug. I have an EV. Can I park in my apartment building in the garage? I will have the right to plug my vehicle in that one. Don't go in detail. There is the battery regulation, so it streamlines all aspects of batteries, finally also for EVs. So there's clear rules about this, where in the past there was a lot of loopholes, even with transporting batteries in the European Union. And the Critical Raw Materials Act, also from bringing the industry, from building these electric vehicles as such, but also building the batteries for these EVs towards the European Union, with a lot of attention on these raw materials, primarily lithium and others here. I heard it also already mentioned at the Net Zero Industry Act. Well, a lot of aspects also coming up here. It's actually an answer on the US Inflation Reduction Act, also where the US is following completely the path to a battery electric vehicle way. There is a high weight on the Chinese. I think we didn't see the beginning of the Chinese car makers, but they will definitely come. Now, to conclude, we know where the questions in the past were, is it feasible electric vehicles? Well, today we know that this is ongoing. This is the forecast from Bloomberg for passenger cars electric vehicle markets. It looks very promising. Now, one reflection on this graph, if you look back 5 years ago on the trajectories or on the forecasts from Bloomberg and also the International Energy Agency on electric vehicles, we are doing much better than forecasted at that time by those big energies. So really encouraging from have you doubts about electric mobility? Well, everything is in place. We know how to do it, so just do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Giel. Quite interesting and quite hopeful that we will proceed so fast with electric vehicles. So we have not much time left, but we'll start with a question with each of our panelists, and we'll see, of course, if someone wants to add something in a previous speaker, please feel free to do it. So I'll start with Mr. Hadjifotis here, and I'll ask, okay, I know motor oil is proceeding with hydrogen. Hydrogen will be, as it seems, an energy carrier that will dominate, let's say, the energy market later on, but is it a solution as is for transport?
Thank you very much. Before answering to you, I just want to be a bit also off topic, following with what Ms. Sardi said. We also have a CCS project examining for our refinery, which gives two good solutions. One is that it will decarbonize our refinery to a great extent. The second is that it will produce blue hydrogen the day after. And in our refinery, we have excessive hydrogen already is there. So this would be a very good solution as a transitional stage in order to have tomorrow hydrogen, cleaner hydrogen, powering our cars. Then about transportation, one big question for hydrogen in our country, specific case, is whether it makes sense for a company to invest in hydrogen. When you go in Central and North Europe, you have big industries which are actually the main consumers of hydrogen. And of course, it's not the case for Greece. We don't have heavy industry. So you cannot really have a business plan in Greece with a scale of, 100 megawatt green hydrogen production only by, providing hydrogen to cars and buses. I mean, I told you before that we are building a new HRS in Agioi Theodori. It will be ready by 2024, and that's because we get a grant from the European Commission, so we have to have it on time. But of course, the question for us is if we're going to see a car passing by the next 5 years. But I'll leave this behind, and just to tell you that here the big shot is shipping and aviation. And of course, there's a big challenge. Of course, still the technology is immature. You're not sure where it's going to go. It's going to be hydrogen. It's going to be, methanol. It could be also ammonia. Yes, exactly. But nevertheless, this is the big opportunity, and this is why we want to continue invest in new technologies in order to be ready there for the next day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And going next to Dr. Koukouzas, and following Dr. Sardi's presentation, do you find in general, in your investigation, your research, if there are barriers on the implementation of CCS projects like Prinos? Do you have technical barriers? Do you have legislation barriers? I don't know.
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, after our investigation, I think we find that Prinos probably is the first priority, as the technical barriers are very limited there, because we have a very well-known geological deposit. So we have many years of expertise doing research, but also oil exploration there. So we have the geometry of the field. So that means that we have no problem with, always the problem with CO2 storage is leakage. So when we put CO2 underground in a very well-known, in terms of geometry and geology, deposit, even with enhanced oil recovery technology, this is going to be a very secure way to store CO2. So, to my understanding, Prinos is probably the first priority for the Greek government or for us to take CO2 underground in Greece. So there's no technical barriers, but from, legislation, as you said, probably this is something that we need to consider and work on this. Yes.
Thank you very much. And from my other hat, like a president of the Hellenic Institute of Marine Technology, Dr. Sardi, you think that there will be availability of vessels for carbon capture, for carbon transportation, carbon dioxide? Because we have heard of some Greek ship owners that they have announced some projects, but are there just announcements? Because someone must transport this carbon dioxide that will be captured.
This is true, and then again, I will respond both on a technical level, but also on a commercial level. Technically, it's the liquid CO2. It's much easier to handle than LNG. It's at -50 versus -160.
And liquid hydrogen, even worse.
Liquid hydrogen, even worse. So I do not think that there are technical barriers. Now, what I tried to say, but I was trying to do very fast, is that commercially, this is a chain. Yes, the CO2 storage can be realized, but it cannot be realized if at the same time we don't have the capturers, and at the same time we don't have the transportation. So a lot of commercial agreements will need to be signed in the next couple of years, so as to ensure that this chain is actually realized at the commercial scale by Q4 2027.
Thank you very much. And I would like to proceed to Mrs. Hugo to ask something that when the new Greek law, the climate law came, we saw that they had forgotten to put low carbon liquid fuels in this law. And we then, as an association of the petroleum companies, we are acted strongly. But do you think that is a solution, low carbon fuels will exist, in a quantities that can be adequate for transportation? And is there a potential to substitute really the conventional fuels?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very good question. So actually, I share somehow your frustration, like with the recognition of the low carbon fuels. I think that we have a policy framework. The Fit for 55 is actually putting in place some elements to boost low carbon fuels, but this is not enough. So in the association, we believe that the strategy for the low carbon fuels at European level is missing, being transposed then to the member states. So there are signals boosting low carbon fuels, but we believe that this is still not enough. However, you ask a very good question. So do we believe that low carbon fuels will be there and can play a role in the future? And I can say that low carbon fuels are playing a role today. So low carbon fuels will be a mix. It's not just one single type of fuel, single type of feedstock. As I mentioned, or I tried to mention very quickly in my presentation, it will be a variety of feedstocks that could potentially mobilize sustainably, of course, to produce these low carbon fuels. And new technologies are being developed and will be developed and scaled up to make these make sufficient volume in the future. What we see also is that in order to make this happen, you need a transition. You saw this S-curve in which we are moving from where we are today, probably very much focusing on some of the technologies that are delivering these low carbon fuels, and we will move up and scale up the volume up to 150 million tons of oil equivalent in 2050. The key point here is that, again, we need the demand. So we need to make sure that we can make the most of the synergies between the different transport sectors. I think one of the previous speakers mentioned very rightly that when we produce in the refinery one type of fuel, it's not just kerosene. We produce a wide range of different type of fuels with potentially different destination. And we have to keep in mind road, aviation, and maritime, and as markets to create the demand and to boost the demand for these low carbon fuels in future. These low carbon fuels can achieve really low GHG emission savings, and with the right policies in place, we believe that there are complementary solutions as well to the electrification in road. So not one or the other, a variety of everything, and actually having access to the sustainable feedstocks could also create jobs and could also boost energy independence in Europe and also support regional development. So we believe that they will play a key role, not only in transport, but also in developing and boosting energy security in Europe.
Thank you very much. So maybe, as Ms. Hugo says, we will have low carbon fuels in the future, but Mr. Lagakos, we will have internal combustion engines. Will they survive 2035, which is, let's say, a milestone for the European Union? And what will do with heavy-duty trucks without internal combustion engines? What is your opinion?
That's a very valid question, and I think nobody knows is the most honest answer whether the 2035 deadline that has been announced by or proposed by the European Parliament will really become effective. And it's important actually to drill down into the words that are have been used in this announcement. First of all, they're not talking about ICEs, internal combustion engines in general. They're talking about cars and vans using ICs. So I think the first interpretation is that they don't want to touch the heavy-duty vehicles yet, because honestly there is no other viable, feasible, competitive solution in the horizon just yet. But even in the segment that I just mentioned of the passenger cars and the vans, even there, you see some second thoughts being implemented, where they're talking about ICs being allowed but running on e-fuels. My guess would be that maybe in the years to come, the range of eligible fuels will also expand further and include biofuels as well, so renewable gases. And of course, there's still the ambiguity and the uncertainty as we approach towards 2035 and things don't really progress as our targets should expect them to progress. Maybe that deadline will be postponed in the future. To conclude, heavy-duty vehicles is a different kind of animal, if I may use this term. They are quite energy hungry and they're quite polluting as we speak. That is why any imminent solution that will move them away from diesel is really added value for the society. And without wanting to repeat myself, LNG and very soon bio-LNG is a very viable pathway for heavy-duty vehicles in Europe.
Thank you very much. And moving to Mr. Van Giel, to smaller, to private cars. There is a debate, a battle, let's say, between electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. The market has a lot of plug-in hybrids at the moment, and there are subsidies, and the market is going to this direction in Greece, as a matter of fact. But is it really a dilemma? Will the plug-in survive, or it's just a phase to move to pure electric?
Plug-in hybrids will definitely disappear. They have been there as a transition technology. And besides what the other panelists said, the 2035 phase out date has been agreed on, not by the trilogues. That's finished, and the internal combustion engine has his ends by 2035. There is no doubts on that anymore. So there will be no future for, even not for plug-in hybrids, from 2035 on. And if you look at the production line for passenger cars, look at European manufacturers, they're all going to full electric by 2035. We'll be talking about Volkswagen, Mercedes, and many others. So this is a no-nonsense discussion, and this is the same for trucks. If you think that you're gonna have other options for trucks than internal combustion engines in the future, you keep on dreaming. Volvo has launched the production line for electric vehicles that cannot follow the demand for trucks because they have all trucks available for all ways of transport by battery electric vehicle solutions. So I wonder why these questions actually are raised in this panel discussion.
Right, because we always need to clear up things because we don't really know about the technologies that will survive after 2030, and so it's very good to be clarified because the investors wants to need where they will invest their money later on. I think that we ran out of time. I don't know if we can have time for a question, Mr. Staboulis, from the audience. No, it's a little bit late, so we'll leave it. We had a lot of things to discuss, maybe another time in another panel. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for these excellent answers and speeches. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Staboulis.